Hello, at last.
All right, so I got several questions for you to ask to become a friend with you because
Yeah.
I was once a competitor too, but I couldn't find my name on the list.
I
But I
see.
saw your name. And then I started to research about your old traces on the internet.
Yeah.
So there are a few things I wanted to ask. First question, why did you apply for this?
Before the pandemic came, I'm doing this project about the black dog. The name is like the black dog which causes cholera. It's some kind of like an idiom, maybe a peasant's idiom for short. If you see the black dog running down the streets way back then, you'll get a cholera. And then after that, after the exhibit, after a few weeks, they said that there's a new pandemic, there's new virus. And then, yeah, came along. And then afterwards, when the pandemic came, me and my partner, like who produced this work, are in the house. And all you hear is all these howling dogs outside because people are like all afraid. And I think like the black dog returned. And then, yeah, it came out like, and then it happens that we're working on this. I saw the ACC. And I think like ACC will be like a good help with this project because this black dog which causes cholera, the story started in the 1900s with the Filipino-American War. It coincided with the Filipino-American War, this outbreak. So it's like 200 people died. And you don't know if this 200 people died because of the war or because of the cholera. So I think Korea is also very much influenced by the Americans about this. You will understand this project.
So speaking of a black dog causes, which causes cholera, you simply shortly explain about why did you kick in this project, like from starting from the small idioms, like you
Yeah.
mentioned. So can you tell me about your work in detail?
If you want, I can share you a little bit of clips on how this project started. So you'll see like how this maybe a ghost hunting started. So I'll share you. Can I share? Can you able screen sharing?
Oh.
So this is the slide that I can show to you.
Ooh.
So this is all started because I got geeked out with all the how is the Filipino shown outside in like the early times how Filipino are shown outside. So and then I saw this photograph. So I got all these 2,000 images from like online. The name of the guy who took the photograph is an American zoologist. His name is Dean Wooster. And then he got all these photographs of Philippines. And then I saw this one. It said that Senor Fabi, who was a spiritualist, always insisted that the blurred image at the side caused by the movement of his own body was a photograph of a spirit of his dead brother. 1901, Manila 1901. But if you see this image, it's a shutter speed. It's like ISO. You're not familiar way back then with photography. Like, yeah, you need to stay still to be able to have like a sharp image. And then I entertained this clever idea. Okay, so I can capture ghosts like a Ghostbuster with a camera. So I started looking at the old images at first and then saw this, like see the black dog, it's blurred. because it's the only one that you cannot say like, hey dog, stop. Yeah. So I cut all these images, like what I said in the exhibit, all these images, process it. And then, yeah, we made like, me and my friend made, one of my good friend of mine helped me. And we made like a mock horror film set. Because it's usually like, yeah, I work with movies. I work as a cinematographer. We made a mock horror film set. It's like an archive, mock archive. It's not really an archive, but it feels like because it's really cold. And yeah, so we did this. And then at the book that they said that there's a black dog which causes cholera, I projected back the image, the dog that Dean Wooster captured. And then, yeah, afterwards, when the pandemic came, yeah, this is the first night I got out in the city, and there's like, yeah, it's really scary. And then, yeah, I saw this portal, and then this is the street where I saw the first dog. And this is the movement of the dog. I think the black dog is not really black. The dog is just in the shadow before going out in the light. So it's not really black at all. When a dog is in the shadow, it's look like a black dog. So I captured all of these images, like 7,000 images of dogs, as a proof. I think it's a proof that the black dog had returned.
So I'd like to know how other artists kick in their work and why do they proceed their artworks. So what is your essential material for your work? It could be any ideas or mediums or tools or something. It could be anything.
Recently, I really love my recent material, especially in the black dog, is like looking into like a microscopic view of something. So it's like I'm using like microscopic camera or like loop rather than like seeing the image in the computer or like in the screen. I confronted the image in a much more detailed way, like, but you're in with your eye. And I just discovered like if you use this lenses, like seeing this image, it's like better than HD. It's like virtual reality. And then like, yeah, it's amazing. So it's like recently I was like really fascinated with this. And I think because of that details that I see in the image that I'm creating, I can go much more deeper. Like, and then I can see also the image flat lay or like in a different point of view, but like in a much more microscopic way. It's how can I explain that in simple word? Maybe because of that process. That's why I'm here in Batangas. I'm kind of like dedicating myself to document the volcano because the volcano just erupted before the pandemic, and all the people that live here live in the volcano island. They got out. They moved because of the eruption, and recently they're like going there one by one. It's still they don't allow the people to live there, but all these people, because they know if they're there, no one will disrupt them. No one will bother them. So I'm kind of like, yeah, that's what I'm like doing, like the microscopic level of like looking into these people, and this is my people. Like I grew up with them. I see how they swim. I see how they smile. I see how they cry. I see their death floating around. And yeah, I'm like dedicating myself for the next 10 years to document them in this kind of way. Yeah.
I think this is the final questions and the most difficult question for you to ask. can you explain yourself, or can you introduce yourself to audience?
It's really hard to do this. But I think, can I have a little help with Ryan to introduce myself?
Yes, yes, please.
So yeah, it's really hard to introduce myself, but I will introduce you, Ryan. He will introduce me. We're not really a good friend, but I trust him to introduce me now. Okay?
Hi, I am Ryan. I am a voice generator to introduce Jim Jasper J. Lombera. Let's begin. Jim Jasper's lineal descent of Javier Lombera is indigenous to the town of Batangas. He was born and raised offshore, to a world facing the sunset by the west. Somewhere as near horizon, a volcano rests at the heart of the lake. His childhood was a long spectacle of people sailing back and forth the lake well known to his hometown. His intimacy with Taal volcano flourished even more, recounting the many stories that survived generations of war, of politics, and of the Lactasin, the profound culture of oral discourse among the Batangueño natives, including his own. One summer when he was older and had already moved into the city, he took a visit back home and returned to the lake for a dip just like the old times. But the lake has its own concept of time and seemed to have not recognized his coming of age. He submerged to the depths of its mysticism, touching the coldest water that seemed to be its bottom. The sand pulling him beneath was but a quicksand, leading into a black hole of his fantasy. Thankfully, his uncle, or perhaps someone else, saved him, pulling him above water, and then later warned him, "I will not hesitate to take a life of a stranger." Another day, he braved to cross the stillness of the lake by daybreak, all the way toward the recently erupted volcano. Upon setting foot to the island, he turned to look back to his point of origin, and saw the sunrise at the east. Taal volcano opened his sight to magic, heart convinced of the unknown. Only then, he finally understood the people who came by the boat back and forth the lake of Taal.
So yeah, thank you, Ryan, for introducing me. Yeah, I know it's really hard to introduce yourself. I think your last question is like about the handshake. I'm really having a hard time like conceptualizing this handshake, but I cannot do a handshake for you now. But if you will have a time after this pandemic or soon that you will came here to the Philippines, I'll show you the volcano and we will have the handshake.
Yay!
I'll promise that to you. Yeah.
As soon as far as I go to the Philippines,
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. I'm totally.